Hello there, welcome to Christopher's Weekly History Topics, Week 13, for the week of March 24th to the 30th, the last one for March, even though there's one more day in March after this week. This week's topic for Week 13 is Andrew Jackson versus the National Bank. Now, the National Bank, as you know, it was founded in the early days of the Republic, but Jackson, the first Democratic president, the first Democrat as a president, he saw the bank as evil and hurting the typical average American who voted him into office. So he thought that, hey, this bank is hurting average Americans who helped me get elected, so I should get rid of the bank to ease the burden on them. So he had the plan to get rid of it. The only problem is the opposing party at the time, the Whig Party, really did not like this. Prominent Whigs like Henry Clay and Daniel Webster were very pro-bank. They didn't really see the need to destroy the bank. They thought the bank was good. And, of course, this was in 1832, which was an election year, so they thought they could run against Jackson and on the platform that, hey, we need the National Bank, we don't want to kill it, we need it to survive, and they thought that they could easily defeat Jackson just using this as their ticket to the White House, basically. What they did is, especially Clay petitioned Congress to do an early renewal on the National Bank's charter because, you see, it was not only that Jackson wanted to get rid of the bank, but the National Bank at the time, its charter was up for renewal. It had to renew the charter, and if the charter wasn't renewed, then the bank was dead history, basically. So what Clay tried to do is he tried to petition Congress to do an early renewal on the bank's charter so the bank wouldn't collapse and go away. This, however, failed because even though Congress renewed the bank, they renewed it successfully. Jackson used his presidential powers to veto the bill, and the problem with that was Clay wanted to overrule the veto because, as you know, in the United States Constitution, if the president vetoes something, Congress can overrule that veto with a two-thirds majority. The only problem was, in Congress, Henry Clay did not have the two-thirds majority needed to overrule a presidential veto. So basically, Jackson's veto stayed, and the bank charter was never renewed. And this was the last time America had basically a national bank until Woodrow Wilson comes in with the Federal Reserves in the 1900s. I would say like 1913 maybe, if I had to guess. So anyway, that's basically the basics of this. All you have to know is that Jackson hated the National Bank. He was in it for average Americans. Thought the National Bank was a burden on the National Bank was a burden on Americans, like typical working Americans. And he thought that only big-time political big shots got wealthy from the banks. He saw politicians like Henry Clay as like pro-bank and like, hey, if this bank gets away, then that's going to be hurtful to my business or my, wealth. So Jackson basically thought, since he was helping the little guy, he was like, hey, if this is hurting average Americans and only helping the big ones, then I should get rid of it, and it will help average Americans like I once was. So basically, in Jackson's viewpoint, the destroying of the banks was totally right. He thought it as a way to help the typical average American and to help ease them. But on the other hand, those like Henry Clay and Daniel Webster, they thought this was horrible. They saw no need to get rid of the bank. They saw no problems with the bank. And they totally didn't like what Jackson was doing. The only problem was they didn't have enough votes to overrule his veto, and the First National Bank was dead. And it is not until, as I said before, until President Woodrow Wilson, when he creates the Federal Reserves, and we once again have a national bank. So anyway, that's basically it. That's just the overview. Like I said before, with these videos, I just do an overview. I don't go too in-depth unless I need to go really in-depth. So that's basically it for week 13, and goodbye.